21st, 2025. Let's get right to it. I got the questions called up. I've got some shout outs going on. It's a rest day. Hope everybody's enjoying the rest day. We got a lot to get through, so I'm going to try to neither dilly nor dally, but no promises. First shout out from Jeff D. This is the other day when we were snatching. He says, Linchpin works. This is a brag. And just a shout out to how the program works, not my own achievements, honestly. 3 kids later, little sleep, and only working out 4 days a week, sometimes only 25 minutes from the moment I walk out into the garage to hit something. And today on the snatch, he hit something that he has only done 7 years ago when he was at a gym working out 6 days a week for 90 minutes at a time. Now, my body composition may not resemble what I did back then, but this week I ran a 5K without stopping. I squatted over 305 pounds and matched an old squat snatch PR. I used to try to practice the squat snatch like every other day back then. I think I haven't squat snatched but one other time in the last 2 months. Thanks, coach. So that's very cool, right? You know, to hit a squat snatch PR that you hit 7 years ago when you're training 6 days a week like a maniac before you had 3 kids and minimal sleep. We'll take that. Melanie, what's up? Oh, down in Guyana. I've got a feeling that the weather's probably nice for you there. Enjoy your trip. Let's see. Next shout out here. Okay, this is from Jason T. This gets sent to me via email. I want to say that I'm loving Linchpin's programming. 2 exclamation points, by the way. I've tried many other programs and nothing compares in my opinion. Thank you for what you and your team have developed and for the work that you guys put into the program. My pleasure, Jason. And then finally, this is from Oscar K. This is the other day when we did one of our monthly Linchpin fitness tests. It included working up to a heavy single on the deadlift, and he pulled 145 kilograms for a new PR. And this is what he says. New deadlift PR with minimal lifting. Who would have guessed? I joined Linchpin in January, so what, it's been 8 months now? And since then, I have missed some of the heavy days involving deadlifts. Not intentional, but life. So my deadlift volume has been quite low, rarely above 100 kilograms, and just once above 120. However, I've been feeling strong, and I wanted to go for it in the Swamp Donkey test. I only have 128 kilograms of weights in the garage, so I went to my local gym a few days early, took my time, and worked up to heavy weights, and boom, got a 7.5 kg PR, which was 145 kilograms. That is 2.1 times my body weight. Good feelings. That's awesome. Okay, that's why we do this stuff. So let's just dive right in. So first one from Kyle I. Any thoughts or tips to enhance, improve, or speed up recovery? Are you swearing by anything? Compression socks, boots, ice bath, hot tub, etc., etc. So, short answer, no. I really don't do anything special for recovery, but that's just me. What I do immediately after the workout, I feel is important, meaning the cool down and the stretch. I have a noticeable difference when I just even get on my air runner and I walk for 10 or 15 minutes. And then I take my time and stretch after that. That makes a difference. When I blow it off, I can tell. I also do a protein shake probably within 30 minutes after the workout. And for me, I just use, I can't even remember what the name of it is, but it's your typical protein powder. And then I don't put it in water because I like it to be extra delicious. And so I put it in whole milk, and it's fantastic. And so I'm sure that nutrition helps as well. But that's all I do. I will say what I have found works if it's been like particularly spicy, like let's say my legs are just toasted, okay, from whatever we did. The following day, when stairs are an issue, using the toilet is an issue, and things like that because my legs are so done, I might do something, either like modify the warm up, the cool down, or something to specifically actually go below parallel again. Like I have found doing the same movement pattern in this example, I actually feels flush my legs out a little bit, and I won't do it with the intensity or loading or anything that it's a workout. I just might do maybe for the warm up the next day. Let's say it didn't have below parallel, but my legs are feeling whatever. I might just throw in some sets of 5 to 10 slow air squats each round in the warm up just to move and maybe do that again in the cool down. And I personally find that that makes me feel really good. Other things that probably won't shock you, but I think move the needle more than anything else: high quality sleep, again, water, nutrition, and then regards to some of the other things like compression gear, hot or cold therapy. I don't do any of that. Um, Different people have different responses to that. If you haven't played with any of it, I might as well try. No harm in doing that, but I haven't done that. To me, it's just paying attention to the cool down, the stretching, um, some post workout meal real quick after that, and then good sleep, good nutrition, and I'm good. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one from Ashley S. We all know Linchpin will get us fit and extremely prepared to live a long and healthy life. In your opinion, how important is getting in the widely talked about 10,000 steps per day in addition to Linchpin programming? My short answer: not important at all. My longer answer, that is potentially a bit more charitable and it takes in a broader range of things, there could be potential value to it. So I guess the short answer is, if you are, you know, happy with your body composition, um, and you're getting good sleep and you're eating well and you're attacking the workouts appropriately with a level of intensity and regularity that you can handle and sustain and recover from, I think you're just set. I think the fact that you don't go out and walk 10,000 steps a day, you are utterly and completely fine. Where the 10,000 steps a day might come into play is maybe you aren't quite happy with your body composition. You don't want to burn some extra calories, want to get in a bit more each day. And you don't feel like, I don't know, hammering rowing repeats or bike sprint intervals or actually going out and running and something like that. And it's easier on your joints and whatnot. And it's actually good for you between the ears, I think, is a big benefit of like getting outside if you're doing that and walking like 10,000 steps. I think probably one of the biggest benefits is also just the mental side and the stress relief as well, getting off a screen and outside. So I put in today to crunch some numbers like, if a 40-year-old male that weighed 180 pounds walked 10,000 steps at a pace of about 3 miles an hour, on average, how many calories would that burn? And it told me on average 450 calories. So that's a nice chunk of calories, in all honesty. And so if that's something that you were doing regularly in addition to your workouts, now you're burning off another 450 calories a day, and you're doing that. I mean, if you're doing it every day, that's a lot. Every other day or whatnot, like that's certainly going to add up and move the needle. So there could be some other hidden benefits in there. But if you're in shape, good body composition, things are going well, you're hitting the workout of the day, you're focusing on your sleep and all these things, but then you open your phone and you suddenly feel bad that you're not doing 10,000 steps a day, I wouldn't buy into that, quite frankly. I mean, on another unrelated case, again, I just think, and this is just Americans, most of us are trapped at our desk, most of us are sitting down, most of us are sedentary far more than we should be. And so just the mere act of getting out and using your legs for 10,000 steps and walking, it has my full support, quite frankly. Like I said, I think it'd be good for my just mental clarity. Like when I go out and walk every now and then, it's wonderful. And another thing I've really enjoyed is a standing desk, by the way. Okay, where I just lost my place. Okay, Kyle I hitting us again had question one and question three. Any recommendation for grips and best tips when to use them? I wrapped my pull-up bar in athletic tape just to keep my hands from slipping when sweaty in the high humidity. I also have lifting straps for deadlifting when going for max lifts, but I feel like I've seen others using grips for movements and just wondering if I'm missing out. Okay, so you said one thing in your question that I think I had an initial visceral reaction, and then I changed it a bit because you mentioned humidity. Humidity is a really interesting deal. As a general global kind of statement, I would say putting athletic tape on most people's pull-up bar, unless, like you're saying, it's just so hot and humid where you are, that your hands are soaking wet all the time. But for many people, putting athletic tape on their pull-up bar will probably cause more rips in their hands than prevent, especially if it's a little bit tacky. It would be far better off in an ideal world to have a bare metal pull-up bar that's dry. Your hands are dry with chalk. Obviously, be safe. We don't want anyone to be falling off the bar, all that common sense stuff. But if where you are, that humidity is a deal, okay, that's an interesting factor. And I can see why potentially taping your pull-up bar was a good thing for you there. Then for the grips, let's see. I don't use any, never have. I just try to take care of my hands. I rarely ever rip because I'll make sure my calluses don't get out of control. I use the chalk and all that good stuff. And, you've got lifting straps you're using when going for max lifts and things like that. I'm curious if you do that, the straps on the max lifts, because is it a palm sweating, bar wet, that's causing your grip to fail sort of a thing? Or if you took an honest assessment of yourself, is your grip strength potentially something that you think is a bit subpar and you could use some improvement in that area? If that's the case, then I would focus on improving your grip strength and making sure you're taking care of your calluses and see how that goes with all these other things. But if you've got it's hot and humid and then grips are an option, I can see using grips in hot, humid weather and pull-up bars to prevent tears and things like that. So I don't have any. I would throw a question out to the community as to the people who do use grips. Are there name brands that they've had good experience with? And that way you won't waste your money on something which, is just a cool Instagram marketing campaign, doesn't actually work. Let's see. Let's see. Jenny, yes, here we go. I can't do a pull-up. Should I work on them outside of the workout or try doing them and lose some intensity when doing them? Normally I just do ring rows. Okay, great question. So, kind of yes to both, depending upon how far away you are from getting the pull-up. Whenever we have pull-ups or any sort of upper body pulling in the Linchpin workout of the day, whether it's regular pull-ups, chest to bar pull-ups, could be strict, could be kipping, could be chin over bar, could be chest to bar, could be a rope climb with legs, a rope climb without legs, could be a ring muscle up, a bar muscle up, any sort of upper body pulling in the regular workout of the day. The overwhelming majority of the time in the wild card option, there will be the opportunity for you to do pull-ups, and then those pull-ups will be marked as pull-ups any style, okay? And that gives you unlimited freedom to what sort of pull-up you want to do. And I try to say in those daily videos, if you don't have pull-ups yet, like now is your opportunity, like choose the wildcard option and work on your pull-ups. So let's say it's a 4-round workout and there's 12 pull-ups each round, okay? And let's say that they're kipping chest to bar pull-ups is what they're supposed to be. Well, you don't have pull-ups. So now you're going to do the wildcard option. You're going to do 12 pull-ups any style each round. And my recommendation would be, since you're working towards that strict pull-up, to do them strict, just chin over bar strict pull-ups. And ideally you have a nice selection of bands. Everyone's finances are different, but they're not that expensive. They'll serve you really well if you can get a nice package of bands that have multiple assistance levels to them. And I would say use a band, generally speaking. I like to say that gives you less assistance than you want, right? So if you choose a band that then now you're an unbroken hero, you do 4 sets of 12 unbroken each time, and now you just skyrocket up the leaderboard, great, but not really. You didn't really get better pull-ups. I would rather see you choose a band that gives you less help than you want, and on those pull-ups you had to do them as 6-3-3, an 8 and a 4 or something like that. And that's the band that I would want to see, so that you have to struggle. And that, as you continue to do that and choose that wildcard option and choose the pull-ups any style, because we try to do upper body pulling about twice a week. So you're going to probably touch it twice a week. Ideally, you will be choosing an intelligent band and then little by little be able to advance with your bands to get less help and less help and less help. And then check out the video that Mateo made. It's on our YouTube channel under instructional videos. It's called like pull-up variations or pull-ups any style or something like that. And he goes through all the different ones. And Aussie pull-ups are also fantastic as well. In case you don't have bands, you can set up the bar and secure it safely at an appropriate height to do Aussie pull-ups, and those would be fantastic as well, and a great way to build towards a strict pull-up. That's just doing it like in when it comes up in the workout. If you wanted to do something in addition to the daily workout that is like a structured program to get you toward your first pull-up, go to variednotrandom.com, and one of the cycles that we offer there is called First Strict Pull-Up or Get Your First Strict Pull-Up. And out of all the different varied not random cycles that we offer, that's like hands down the most popular because everyone getting their first pull-up is a really big deal. And I believe it's 8 weeks long, and it's just uploads to the BTWB app, tells you exactly what to do every day. There's instructional videos, and people absolutely love it. And there's been plenty of people in the Linchpin community that have done that as well, in addition to still following the Linchpin programming. So you could throw out a question as to asking anybody for their experience with that as well. Okay. Daniel C.K. I purchased a weight vest for the next test 13. Okay, all right. Just choosing the spice right out of the get-go. Good for you. Since last time I did it only about 2 months ago when I borrowed one. I was wondering whether you have any tips or recommendations on how to incorporate it into training. Is there any way to add it in as a spicy element, for example, on the no equipment workout, or should it be reserved only for those workouts that prescribe it? Thanks. Absolutely adore this program. Cool. Well, thank you. Well, kind of yes to both. I mean, you got yourself a new piece of kit. Let's not lie to each other, right? You get a new piece of kit, you want to use the new piece of kit. And so it could be a while before a weight vest workout pops up. So if you got that workout, you get that weight vest there, it's calling your name. And, out of the 5 workouts each week, you want to throw it on for 2 of them just to have fun and put the weight vest on, you'd be good to go. You'd be told, yes, you'll get a different time or whatever than you had. It will be harder in one way, but potentially cause you to rest more in a different way. Like it's just, you're fine. Fitness will be achieved. So you can go ahead and throw it on whatever days that you want to throw it on. So you don't need to wait until one pops up. And I have a feeling that if you do that for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or even 4 weeks, that shine will wear off, and then you'll eventually set it down in the corner and you'll just wait to pick it up when it pops up. So that's totally cool. But yes, it can also be something that you can throw on the no equipment option if you're going to do that. Although plenty of those no equipment options are spicy enough as they are. But if a little bit of extra loading makes the workout look all that more appealing to you and makes you go ahead and do it, all good. All good. So, yep. And good luck when you throw it on test 13. Let's see. Corey C. I saw a video recently of you answering the question that was about, what if I never ran the clock again? Ah, yes. And I enjoyed the insight. Similar question. What if you never lifted super heavy again? Shock and horror. I mean heavy in a relative term, but on 7x1 days or something. What if you could do more, but you hung around 70%-ish and ensured excellent form on all lifts? I guess what I'm saying is, what if I never maxed out on lifting to the extent of sacrificing any form at all, which may result in you not going as heavy as you could? Eyes bulging, core giving some brink of passing out. Okay, cool. Good question. Let's dive into it. So everything is give and take, right? Something in pile A, pile B, trying to balance the scales here. And there's also a difference between optimizing your fitness and then maybe just real life, right? If you're talking about optimizing your fitness, being the fittest version of yourself, assuming that you don't have some medical condition or something going on which is just categorically going to inhibit you from lifting a single, a 7x1, and it's just a negligent and terrible idea. Like, this is just a choice. You'd rather stay away from them. Will you optimize your fitness and potentially be the most fit that you could be? I don't believe so. Removing that from your program, but like you're saying, you're still going to lift relatively heavy, Go up to 70% for an increased number of repetitions, most likely, but it won't be singles. Will you still be ferociously fit, fast, and strong? Yes, you will. It's just what's the decision that you want to make and what's the priority that you're making. Um, and let's just take a step back. Like, will you still be fit? Okay, what if you never did singles 7x1 in the deadlift, and you stuck at sets of 5 or sets of whatever, it's 70%. Okay, great. Did you maybe lose a little bit on your top end? Maybe. But again, speaking about the United States, go do a little search online as to what percentage of the United States is in horrifically poor health. Whether it's obese, overweight, sedentary, have risk factors, chronic disease, whatever it happens to be. I think when you put all of those things together that I just said, it's 70%, maybe even a little bit higher than 70%. So that's 70% of the population. So here you are in the gym getting after it like a beast, and you've just decided you're going to take this one element out of your fitness. You're still in this incredibly small fraction of society that's doing strength and conditioning, that's eating well, that's pushing yourself with intensity. Like, you're going to be like an action hero compared to everybody else. Will you be the most capable action hero possible? Well, no, because you're removing one element there, but you'll still be an action hero. Maybe not an A-list celebrity, but an action hero nonetheless. So I think you're good there. That's like my thing there. It's just what decision do you want to make? The other thing that you said is I think you can have both. You know, I don't want to see anybody right now. Again, this is all an individual choice, and I'm not trying to be a hypocrite. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been working out now pretty consistently for about 35 years. I've been doing CrossFit specifically for a little over 2 decades. Are there lifts in my past that if I saw myself pulling a 1 rep max deadlift or a back squat and I looked at the form these days, I'd go, ooh, that was a bit questionable. Not quite sure if that extra 5 pounds was worth it there, but I got away with it. Of course, I have those lifts in my history. But it just depends on where you are in your fitness journey. These days, I still want to be the fittest version of myself, but I also have a total hip replacement. Oh, and by the way, I just turned 50. Like, these are all just real things, right? And for anyone who's unfamiliar with my story, I didn't get a total hip replacement because of working out or CrossFit. It was a stupid military accident a long time ago, and it was just coming. Um, Lifts just feel different these days. I've got quite an imbalance in one leg or the other. So when I go and lift a 7x1 deadlift, which I still do, I don't allow myself to get into a territory that I'm not extraordinarily happy with my form and technique. And then whatever load that happens to be on the bar is the load that happens to be on the bar. But I'm still going to do the 7x1, but I'm not going to sacrifice anything for a number that used to be or whatever it happens to be. So I think for wherever you are in your fitness journey, you can have multiple things at once. You can have intensity. You can have a rep range like a 7x1. You can have great lifts. You can push yourself and you can do it while moving well. Okay? And so I think that shapes that right there. And then depending upon what you're doing, for example, with like the 70%, that initially sounds like, oh, it's 70%. I mean, that's quite different than my 100%. So this is a weight I can just, not sling around recklessly. I'm not saying that. But at the right rep range, you know, uh, that final set on a 5x5 can be almost just as taxing, if not more, on your central nervous system due to the fatigue and the other reps and sets that have built up than you pulling a heavy single once and getting it over with. So all I'm saying is don't feel like because there's less weight in the bar, but now you've potentially increased the reps that you're going to do with it, that you could be avoiding poor form. Like that could happen at any weight, at any lift, any fatigue level, any whatever. So that has to be an active and conscious decision for you in how you choose to lift. So I would just say that. But again, given like what I just said right there, could you be a beast? Yeah, you could be a beast. I mean, imagine, now you've got my mind going down a rabbit hole. Imagine if you didn't lift heavy at all, you had like, again, you're trapped on a desert island with nothing but a pair of 50-pound dumbbells, okay? And you didn't know a lot about working out. And so you can't go super heavy. All you got is a pair of 50-pound dumbbells. But you picked those dumbbells up every other day and you just lunged as far as you could with them. And somebody rescued you 5 years later on that island. And so over the course of 5 years, you only had the 50-pound dumbbells, but every time you picked them up, you were able to lunge another step or two. And then the week later, another step or two. And the week later, another step or two. I don't know what your one rep would be because you don't have those weights for squat or deadlift, but would you have any issues being capable and powerful and strong in the real world just lunging 50-pound dumbbells and never touching more weight? You'd be an animal. So again, it's all just context and kind of relative there. From Forrest H. Forrest, welcome back to Linchpin. I get challenged by my friend with this question. When is the last time you changed your mind about something that matters? It's something I think about often to help keep me open to new ideas. This morning, as a matter of fact, I made my breakfast, and I generally have 2 bananas with my breakfast, and your health and nutrition matters. And then I saw that my wife had purchased a large bag of bagels, and the flavor on the bagel said French toast. And I said, a French toast flavored bagel? I no longer care about my health. The heck with these bananas. Give me this French toast bagel. Toast it in the toaster, saturate it thoroughly with butter, and give it to me. And the consequences will be what they be. No, I'm joking. But actually, we did buy those bagels, and I will absolutely have one. No, you're right. Open-minded is certainly good. I mean, I think of a big thing that we had in our life within the last, something significant within the last month or so, involved one of our kids. So I'm not going to chat about it here, but yeah, I mean, relatively recently. And who knows, might happen again today. Okay, next one from Matt F. When a death by workout is programmed, I can often get deeper into the workout when going at a lower intensity for the first few, let's say 8 to 12 rounds, versus a sprint intensity from the start. Would I get more adaptation from the increased overall volume of a better score from the gradually building intensity approach, or from the sharp spike effect and struggle to recover caused by the sprint intensity effort? Okay, so for anyone who's unfamiliar with it, a death by workout, like let's take death by calories on the air bike. You hop in the air bike, reset the monitor, the clock starts beeping, 3, 2, 1, beep, clock starts running up. In minute number 1, you pedal 1 calorie. Let's just say that takes you 5 seconds, okay? You rest the remaining 55 seconds. In minute number 2, you have to pedal 2 calories. Takes you 10 seconds, now you have 50 seconds of rest. In minute 3, you pedal 3 calories. You see how this goes. In each minute, as the minutes increase, your calories increase by 1. So you have more work to do in that 1 minute, and since you have more work, that means you have less recovery. So at a certain point, it starts off really easy. Then at a certain point, the Grim Reaper shows up and you implode and you fail to achieve the required number of calories in that particular minute in this example. And you've got a couple options, like Matt's saying, like even though it's 1 calorie, I can hammer it. 2 calories, hammer it. 3 calories, hammer it. And then hammering those early calories is going to put you in a deficit earlier, and you're probably not going to get as far in the workout. Or you can pedal those initial minutes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 through 10 calories moderately. You'll get less rest, but you're not really exerting yourself that much, so the rest is ample, and most people will probably make it a bit further in the workout like that. Matt, I can just tell you what I do on those days. I absolutely don't go hard out of the gates. Absolutely. I employ whatever strategy I think will allow me to go as deep into the workout as possible because in my mind, I see exactly what you're saying with sprinting right out of the gate. But in my mind, this is an interesting workout that initial deficit, even moderately, that you've put yourself in, suddenly catches up in those last 2, 3, or 4 minutes where you collapse upon yourself like a dying star. You can't get to recover. You're hammering it really hard, and you've got the energy to try to push really hard at the end because you saved a little bit of energy from not sprinting initially. There's no one way you have to do it. Okay, that's how I do it because in my mind, that's a unique stimulus on like a death by workout. Um, and what you're talking about with like dedicated, pure, hard sprints, um, we're going to get those on other days, right? We're going to get those on every 3 minutes when we do 12 calories for men, 8 for women. You're going to get this dedicated, just hardcore sprint, and I'm going to get rest and sprint again. Yesterday, when we had, you could have done it on the bike as well, 5 50-meter sprints. There's your efforts right there. 3 400s, 1 800. So allowing us to do those dedicated short sprints, go long every now and then, mixed modality and workouts, and then the interesting effects of like a death by workout allow us to cover a whole bunch of different bases. And that's why me personally, I don't hammer those initial calories because I feel like I get that hammering sprint effect on some other dedicated days. I try to get as far as I can into the workout as possible. Okay. Brian W. Been battling golfer's elbow and doing high volume pull-ups, specifically higher than 10 sets. I think you're saying when doing, okay, been battling golfer's elbow when doing high volume pull-ups, especially higher than 10 reps per set. Would doing ring rows with the prescribed pull-up range, or would you suggest doing the scaled version with that rep range? For example, this Friday, the wild card calls for 24 pull-ups and the scaled option calls for 15 ring rows. Okay, so golfer's elbow. It's golfer's elbow and tennis elbow. And after you said this, you have me wondering which I've had in the past because I've had one a couple times for sure. But we got golfer's elbow affects the medial. I'm going to say this word wrong. Epicondyle. Epicondyle. Did I say it right? The medial epicondyle of the elbow, which is the bony bump on the inner side of the elbow, where the flexor tendons attach to the forearm. It involves inflammation or micro tears in the tendons that connect the forearm muscles to the inner elbow. And so, if that is truly what you have right there, and you've got inflammation and or micro tears, to each their own, right? We're each our own canopy commander. But I have found that very few things heal these sort of a deals other than rest. Like just flat out rest and avoidance of using that particular joint. I have been known to just put one arm here and do one arm ring rows. I've done all kinds of wacky stuff, one arm bent over rows and things like that. Now, you know you. So if changing from pull-ups to ring rows, if reducing the overall number of repetitions actually does not irritate that elbow and you feel good, cool. But I would say my number one thing for you would be do whatever actually doesn't irritate that thing in any way, shape, or form. Because what I've seen is if you keep using it, that issue will linger and it will just seem to never go away for literally months. Whereas if you bite the bullet, I know you're not happy to like have to modify the workout and just avoid using it for potentially a couple of weeks or more, you might get back on track way faster. But if there'd be nothing wrong with doing ring rows, and if that volume of work, again, the rep range, if the rep range of the wild card irritates you and the rep range of the scaled does not, 100% choose that scaled option. Again, do what doesn't irritate that elbow. Coming back would be my number one thing. And it's shocking. I mean, man, if you can do pull-ups at a different range and it actually feels good, which I think sounds so unlikely, then great, go ahead and do that. The answer to your question is whatever doesn't irritate that elbow, because that thing will just stick around forever and ever. Aisha W. Coming back from double knee surgery. okay. Wow. Um, Welcome back, by the way. That sounds rugged. I'm coming back from double knee surgery, and I'd stopped CrossFit in 2022. I'm back with a home setup. Training in a class makes it hard to leave my ego at the door. What's your advice on my return and taking on Linchpin workouts for the first time? I'm not the same fitness wise as before. Yeah, I'm I'm sure that you're not. Um, so, first of all, whatever disclaimers have to be said in 2022, right? I'm not a physician. I'm not giving medical advice. You underwent very serious surgery. So, between you and your physician, you've got to know your limitations. Are you cleared for working out? All that stuff should that. But if just you and I are having a cup of coffee and you're asking my personal opinion, uh, I would kind of bring it back to some degree as to what happened when I had to come back from my total hip replacement. By the way, I think you're coming back from something more challenging than a total hip replacement. I think double knee surgery is pretty darn high up there. Things that might sound cliche, but they really are the truth. Patience, no rush. I already mentioned the ego thing, right? Throw those old numbers out the door. Old lifts, old runs, old whatever, throw them out the door. Bury them in the backyard next to the big oak tree. Um, now don't get me wrong. It's good to have goals. Good to remember what that old back squat used to be and all that. And maybe you'll get it again. Maybe you'll get near it. But if we're having a real conversation, maybe you won't. Fitness might look very different. This might be a very new chapter in your life. It has been to some degree with me with that total hip replacement. I know what my old numbers were, and I'm probably not going to hit them. That's okay. I'm going to lift relative and push myself appropriately based upon what makes sense for my body and where I am right now. I would say give yourself a tremendous amount of grace and patience. Celebrate small victories and then realize that the goal for all of us is to be doing functional movements with intensity relative to our capacity, with intelligent variance for as long as we can, because that's going to keep us as fit, fast, and strong in the real world as we can forever and ever and ever. So, my point is, you've got a long horizon that you're trying to work out the rest of your life. So, you don't have to try to get everything in today, today's session, this week's training, this month's training, this year's training. Okay, so crawl, walk, run. Scale way more than you think you need to for longer than you think you need to. That's scaling load, rep range, overall volume, like whatever intensity, whatever is required for you to just step back in. There's that classic CrossFit adage and recommendation of mechanics, consistency, and intensity, and you are going to be the living, breathing embodiment of that. Mechanics, then consistency, and only then intensity. Mechanics. Try to establish some good range of motion, try to move well, and try to be able to do that consistently over and over again. We're not caring about load, we're not caring about intensity, mechanics and consistency. Then and only then, when you're happy with those two things, will you gradually start to add some intensity in there. And that intensity could be loading, that intensity could be bumping up rep ranges, that intensity could be the pace at which you're moving. It could be all of those things, but it's the last step in the process. And it's also okay to realize that you overdid it a bit and then take a step back and test some waters and take a step back. Like you're going to be on a bit of a learning journey and allow yourself, again, give yourself the grace to be on that journey. But treat it with respect, and so that's what I would say. Scale more than you think you need for longer than you think you need. Keep what you're doing in the kitchen on point. You know what I mean? As somebody that, was medically down for a while and my activity level went quite low after the total hip replacement there, if you're just sitting around recovering and still just getting your paws in the fridge like you used to, things can go sideways fast. So keep the nutrition on point, get some great sleep, move your body intelligently, and mechanics, consistency, and then intensity. And also feel free to lean on this community. I mean, we've got thousands of people in this community ranging in ages from their 20s all the way up to their 70s and everything in between. with people that have never had a surgery, with people that have had multiple surgeries in every walk of life, everything. So if you throw some questions out there about where you are, what you're dealing with, and recommendations, there's a really good chance you'll get some excellent feedback from somebody who has walked a similar path, and that could be really beneficial for you. So, welcome aboard. Okay, again, from the great handle here in the Facebook group, the cheap CrossFitter. I have a second-hand air bike, but recently the monitor broke. Right, just throw that whole bike out. Nobody wants to bike anyway. Is it realistic to substitute the prescribed calories or meters on the air bike with a time measurement, or should I just buy a new bike? Okay. So first of all, the answer to your question is yes. It's realistic. You could bike for a certain amount of time if you've got a broken monitor. Let's say that we're doing Helen, 3 rounds of time, 400-meter run, some kettlebell swings, some pull-ups. 400-meter run, depending upon where you are when you generally do Helen. If you're really fast, there, and you like in the 140s, really fast, maybe you live in France, you're in 2 minutes, it could be 2 minutes, 15 seconds, like wherever you are in those 400s, and most likely during Helen, it's not a 400-meter sprint because you've got 3 rounds to do with these other elements. It's going to be a moderate level of suck. You're in the 400s and you're breathing hard. It's sustainable, but you're very uncomfortable. So what you could do, let's say that's for 2 minutes, you could just hop on the bike and mimic that feeling. Get yourself to a sustainable level of discomfort for 2 minutes on the bike that you can then get off and grab right to the kettlebells and get after it. You could play that game. The sprints yesterday. You don't know, you're just going to hop on and for 15 seconds, you're just going to hammer the bike and that's your 50-meter dash or whatever it happened to be. So you absolutely can do what you're saying. And it just depends upon, again, everybody's finances are different. A new bike is not cheap. Maybe you find a good deal somewhere. If so, great. Or maybe, you recently hit the local state lottery. Awesome. If the money's there, getting a new bike could be wonderful. Maybe you can buy just a new monitor, but you certainly can do it the way that you described. From Jill KB. Probably too late, but what did you end up doing with your burgers the other night? So this is, again, just a wonderful thing about having access to thousands of people. I wanted to grill up some burgers the other day. Didn't want to buy just, pre-made patties. Wanted to get some hamburger and just make them. And I just asked in the private Facebook group and in the squads feature in the BTW app, who has a good homemade hamburger recipe? Like what should I put in the meats, spices, or whatnot? And I got so many responses. It was fantastic. And I just selected one of them. There were common threads in there about salt and pepper. I think I had some onion powder and some garlic powder in there, an egg, and some mayonnaise. And I put all that in. It was really nice. It was great. Thank you, everybody. It was delicious. The only thing that I did wrong was I made the patties a bit too big, and then they just took forever to cook on the grill. And so then I had a little bit of that meat left over, and then I made thinner patties on the grill, and they came out great. So thank you. Okay, let's see. From CS. Will we see some of the workouts from the Very Not Random podcast episode 228? We might think on that one. Yeah, Boz and I discussed some workouts that we both enjoyed. They're rolling around back there. We'll see if some fit. From Scott W. I want to do a marathon row. Okay, all right. Seek counseling, my friend. I'm joking. I want to do a marathon row. The training guide I'm using will have me rowing 3 to 4 times per week, including shorter sessions. My plan is to prioritize marathon prep, but I want to continue Linchpin in a reduced manner to support GPP. How would you suggest going about that? Wow. First of all, great goal. Please keep us posted on that. I think without knowing what those 3 or 4 sessions that you're doing per week look like, and then that matters. And then how are those 3 to 4 sessions treating your body? Do you feel like The Walking Dead, where all you need is just recovery? Well, if the marathon row is your goal, you might really have to deprioritize some other things, and maybe you're just going to get in 1 to 2 linchpin sessions a week in ones that make sense. Maybe the heavy day, maybe a good mixed modality day, and you might have to modulate intensity or whatnot on those workouts if you want to pour your heart and soul into the rowing thing. What I would highly recommend that you do, if you have not already, is join up with the other bunch of endurance lunatics that are in Linchpin. So you posted this question in the BTWB squad for Linchpin. In that squad, just make a general post to Ryan Stafford, Stafford, Ryan Stafford. Tag him. He is the individual that runs the unofficial CrossFit Linchpin Endurance Squad, and that exists in the BTWB app. And anybody who wants to get in it should go ahead and do that. And that unofficial CrossFit Linchpin Endurance Squad is full of people who love endurance, whether it's rowing like you're talking about, running 10Ks, half marathons, full marathons, triathletes, the whole 9 yards. And they are constantly sharing ideas and best practices for how to augment that long distance training that they're doing with Linchpin. So that world that you want to get into, Scott, it actually already exists. And so tag Ryan Stafford and let him know that you would like to get into that unofficial CrossFit Linchpin Endurance Squad. And good luck, my friend. Good luck to your biscuits. I have to assume that in addition to the strength, the conditioning, the stamina, the willpower, hopefully that training guide sometimes talks about what's going to happen to your biscuits and how to keep them just from going numb and feeling terrible over a marathon row. Final question from Daniel W. I noticed that BTWB includes some free, varied, not random workouts each day. As the face and voice of VNR, can you shed any light on these? Are they your handiwork in disguise? No, they are not. Common question. I do not program the varied, not random workouts. Neither does Adrian Bosman. Somebody at BTWB does, who shall remain nameless. I'm sorry, that's a very unsatisfying answer. But yeah, the VNR workouts are just free workouts that BTWB gives out, and they're completely disconnected from Linchpin. So that, my friends, I think we covered everything, right? Yeah, that's it. Okay. So it's Thursday. I'm going to just stay right here on my computer and keep plugging away at the next 4-week block of programming, bring the appropriate amount of wizard pepper so we can all advance forward. And that's the long-term goal of Linchpin. Just a group of like-minded people that support one another, that help each other make really smart decisions, that try to get as fit, fast, and strong as we possibly can with spending as little time in the gym as possible so we can actually live life, right? Shocking. So, all right, have a great day, everybody, and we'll talk later.